Yuna kept on celebrating, for that black wannabe idol was about to be destroyed. Sandra's life was going to be ruined. Minutes passed by with Minju teaching her some dance moves for the audition. He was too strict to her. She kept frowning as he kept on saying this, that, raising her hands, doing this, that. It was just too stressful for her. To Minju, it was his opportunity to get closer to her. Helping her master the moves was more like growing close to her. But to Sandra, this was wickedness, this was torture, but she had no choice but to do his unorthodox way of training. Even after learning the moves, he still made her dance more, not ready to let her go. He wished she could be with him more, though he was acting strict to make her feel amazed that he was a professional and amazing. But to Sandra, he was a very wicked tutor, making her suffer. She tried to do a move and misses her steps and was about to fall, but then he grabs her in his arms. The two stare at each other, their hearts fluttering, their minds asking, does she feel what I'm feeling? Does he feel what I'm feeling? Minju had no idea what came over him. He moved his head closer to her and at the same time using his arm to draw her towards his chest. She had no idea what was up with her. She couldn't resist and moved her head towards him. The two moved closer, their lips almost touching. One more move and a wild kiss will take place. But then the door opened and ruined the moment, the romantic moment. The cops entered and showed their warrant ready to arrest Sandra for burning of a private building and attempted murder on the tenants. Sandra and Minju froze. How? When? Sandra had to follow the cops and was taken away. Minju got worried and hurriedly sent a message to his lawyer. The news spread like wildfire in the school. Sandra had been arrested for an attempted murder. Kulfi heard about it and rushed out of the hall, ignoring Kiki, who was ordering her back. Besides, they had done their audition, so why was she restricted from going to see a sister in need? Haruna got worried about Sandra and the fact due to the outcomes, they might not meet at 8 p.m. as planned. Sandra felt like a total fool as she listened to the cop questioning her. She could only say she was innocent, but no one believed her. Minju showed up and could only tell her she was being charged to court, but his lawyer was doing everything to secure a bail for her. Funnily, there were CCTV clips of Sandra performing the listed crimes that contrast the fact she was with him all day. He knew Sandra was being framed, but the issue was escalating on internet and people were saying hurtful things against Sandra. He didn't bother telling her as he didn't want her to go through more pain. Though, that could ruin her chances of being a K-pop idol. Kulfi gets to the station and requested to see her bestie. Her heart shattered as she set her eyes on Sandra. The two held onto each other in pains. Kulfi wondered who had set Sandra up. She had no idea what to do but knew she had to do something, help Sandra. They talked and talked, making Minju invisible as he felt he was no longer considered relevant. They were too engrossed in their conversation that every other soul in their midst were no longer in existence. It was just the two bestie. Meanwhile, back at school, Haruna walked towards Yuna's office, an office specially set aside for her. She suspected Yuna was the architect of everything that was happening to Sandra. As she moved nearer to the door, she overheard someone talking to Yuna. Inside the room was the mafia talking with Yuna. Yuna kept on pleading with the mafia not to do what he wanted to do, as that could ruin Minju's career, and she didn't want that. She only wants Sandra destroyed. The mafia mocked her, as Minju wasn't even in love with her, yet she was trying to protect him, and despite the fact he was into Sandra and not her. Yuna still pleaded regardless of the way he mocked her. She believed getting Sandra out will give her chances to win Minju's heart. The mafia agreed to let the plan go off. He rose up on his feet ready to leave. Haruna quickly ran to a corner and hid there. She watched the mafia leave, though she had no idea he was a mafia. She could only wonder who he was. After he was out of sight, she walked into the office and gives Yuna the beating of her life for framing Sandra. Yuna was beaten beyond recognition to the extent she found herself in the hospital fighting for her life. Her dad went overboard, demanding for the culprit, yet no one knew who did such. Not even Yuna herself, for Haruna had used a mask. All they knew was that the culprit was a girl, but who that girl was, no one knows. The following day after the Yuna unfortunate incident, Sandra was released and free of all charges, for Haruna had brought out many evidences that placed Yuna and her dad's image at stake. Some bribery and connection took place and the whole issue died as if it never existed, but the scars never left. Sandra was grateful to Haruna for her help. She and Minju wondered how she did it and how she got evidences to prove that the CCTV clips of Sandra being the perpetrator was AI. Everything was a lie and nothing but AI, and the real culprit got caught but was immediately released due to connection. Sandra heard of what happened to Yuna and felt compassion for her. Minju was suspicious. It could be Haruna who did such to Yuna, but he wondered why. Why her of all people? She was not even that close to Haruna. Kulfi showed up, thanked Haruna and hugged the vindicated Sandra happily. The two besties kept on talking and talking happily as usual. Haruna got too jealous watching Kulfi talk to Sandra. It was supposed to be her and not Kulfi, for was she not the one who saved Sandra? Minju noticed. He was not comfortable. He suspected Haruna had unclean intentions towards Sandra. The days that followed were days of torments to the students of South Korea High. Torments of going crazy, thinking if they will or not get into the show after hours of training and audition. The day for the announcement arrived. The chosen ones were announced except those who failed, and part of those who failed was Sandra. She wasn't picked. In fact, she failed terribly. Her score was so low to be reconsidered, and the incident with the cops made her an unworthy candidate. This broke her completely. She could only cry and cry. After all her effort, after everything, it all went down to the drain. She walked out of the hall dejected, in tears. She had failed the first challenge. 3 weeks was complete. Her dreams was no longer visible. Tears flowed from her eyes. She was hopeless. Minju, who had been waiting for her outside, saw her and immediately got heartbroken upon seeing her crying. He rushed towards her and hugs her tightly. He couldn't believe it. He had taught her and had seen her dance countless number of times. He was sure she would pass, but she failed. How that happened, he still had no idea. He did all he could do to comfort her and make her smile. Sandra noticed his efforts and tried to smile for his sake, but the moment night set in, tears filled her eyes again. Then her phone beeped. She saw a message from Haruna saying, "Let's meet now in school. Something bad is going on with Kulfi. We need to save her." That made her forget her pain. Her heart raced. She remembered the mafia words. She rushed out of the room and bumps into Minju, who learns of Haruna's message. The two left Minju's apartment and headed to the school to meet Haruna. Minju was skeptical. He didn't trust Haruna because of the way she looks at Sandra and acts jealous whenever a girl or boy is seen close or next to Sandra. They got to the school and saw Haruna waiting. Haruna had guessed perfectly. Minju will show up with Sandra. Sandra asked Haruna what it was about, but before Haruna could reply, someone fell off the rooftop and that person was Kulfi. Sandra screamed as she looked at Kulfi and fainted. The mafia stood at a distance and whispered, "Slowly I will cage Sandra and make her mine." The mafia's obsession was growing darker. Subscribe for next part. Remember to follow and like.